have Korean War, also known as the Forgotten War. Major figures. So, after World War II, Korea was no longer under the control of Japan. And in 1945, Soviet leader Joseph Stalin decided to join the United States in order to pinch Japan out of Korea. So the superpower met at the 38th parallel, and they decided to split and to occupy Korea along that line. So the Soviet Union took the north, and they supported Kim Il-sung as the leader of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. In the south, an educated authority named Seaman Rhee emerged. So both sides wanted another side eliminated, and the threat grew stronger. After the North invaded the South, President Truman, he sensed the public outrage, and he decided to call the U.S. Air and sea strikes immediately against the North Korea. So early on, under the leadership of General MacArthur, the UN forces were successful in repulsing the North Korean attack. So his victory in Incheon in 1950 allowed the UN forces to retake Seoul, the capital of South Korea. However, when General MacArthur argues that the war ought to be extended to mainland China, he was fired by President Truman, and General Ridgway took the Far East Command after that. We have a short video here.
Korea is a small country, thousands of miles away, but what is happening there is important to every American. An act of aggression such as this creates a very real danger to the security of all free nations. This is a direct challenge to the efforts of free nations to build the kind of world in which men can live in freedom and peace. This challenge has been presented squarely. We must meet it squarely.
So I will give a more detailed description of the origins of the war and the course of the war. So Japan ruled Korea from 1910, and after the Allies' victory and Japan's surrender in August 1945, it ended Japan's rule of Korea. And Soviet Union and United States agreed to temporarily occupy the Korean Peninsula, with hopes that the Korean Peninsula would reunite through democratic elections and become free and independent someday in the future. So the Soviet Union took the part north of the 30th parallel, this green line. So for now, just ignore the orange line. This is the current border. So the Soviet Union take the part north of the 30th parallel, and the United States to the south part. However, both sides they blocked the democratic elections, and in the north, as Gwen said, the Soviet Union supported Kim Il-sung as leader of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and in the south, the United States supported Seaman Rhee as leader of Republic of Korea. So both sides continued to negotiate over democratic elections to reunite the country. However, both of them wanted to reunite the country under their preferred political systems, but this is not possible because they have very different political systems. So some small fights was periodically instigated around the 30th parallel. And the Korean War officially began when the North, the DPRK, attacked the South, the ROK, on June 25th, 1950. So as in the video, it says that the the United States viewed the attack from the north as evidence that the communism would challenge the free world. So President Truman authorized the use of U.S. ground troops in Korea, and after that, the UN forces was sent to the Korean Peninsula, which composed of troops from 15 nations, but most were from the United States. And the involvement of United Nations led the internal struggle within the Korean Peninsula become an international struggle. And so by September 1950, the North Korean force had almost occupied the entire peninsula and had forced the South Korean force into a very small area around Busan, which is at the southeast corner of the Korean peninsula. However, on September 15, 1950, the U.S. Marine Force made a surprise landing at the port of Incheon, which is right here. So afterward, the South Korean force was able to break the North Korean supply lines and also push inland to recapture Seoul as Gwenside, which is the capital of South Korea, that the North Korea had taken away. So the Incheon landing changed the course of the war as it restored the status quo that existed before the war, which is they divided near the 30th parallel. So after the Incheon landing, the UN forces crossed the 30th parallel and pushed north. And by October 1950, they had almost reached the Yalu River, which is the border between China and North Korea. So Chinese officials think that the UN forces approaching its border is a threat to its security. So under the direction of Chinese leader Mao, the Chinese communist force crossed the Yalu River and entered the Korean War on October 14, 1950. So this is the location of the Yalu River. And personally, the place I was born is around here. It's right near the border of China and North Korea. It's a border city of China. And whenever I come back to my hometown, I can see North Korea across the river very clearly. So and this is the picture of the nowadays Yalu River. So you may see that there are two bridges. This one has been destroyed, and this one is in good shape and still being used. So during the war, the United Nations force destroyed this bridge in order to cut the supply line of Chinese Communist force. And so later they built a new bridge that is still being used nowadays. So by July 1950, the war has reached a stalemate because although both the North and South failed in their larger goal to reunite the country under their preferred political systems, but both of them they cannot reach their short-term goal, which is to maintain the demarcation line around the 30th parallel. So both the North and South began to discuss peace. And finally, on July 27th, 1953, the armistice was signed between China, North Korea, and United Nations. I don't think the South Korea signed the armistice. And and the armistice set a new border, which is the orange line instead of 30th parallel, as the new demarcation line between North and South Korea. But however, the armistice only stopped shooting. It did nothing to a political solution. It did nothing to achieve a political solution, and no peace treaty was ever signed afterward. So nowadays, the Korean Peninsula was still is still divided. And this is a picture of the nowadays border between North and South Korea, near the demarcation line. And I believe this side is south and this side is north.
It's an army barracks.
Yeah, this is the line. And from this line map, you can see very obviously the contrast between North and South Korea. And we can check out some maps to see where is where. So this is Asia, and here is Japan, and here's nowadays North Korea, South Korea, and here's China. So first, let's see. So this is Busan, also known as Busan, which is at the southeast corner of the peninsula. So at first, the North Korean force had forced the South force to retreat around this area. And here is so here is Incheon, and nowadays the airport of Seoul is located at Incheon, and the capital Seoul is right near the port of Incheon. And Seoul is still the capital of South Korea nowadays. And so in the north. So this is the border between China and North Korea, which is Yalu River. And right here, so this is the place I was born, and this is North Korea, and you can see here is a bridge, and if we turn this, so you can see there are two bridges. This one has been already destroyed, and this one is still being used. Yeah, so this is the Yalu River and China, North Korea. So, yeah.
So we're going to talk about the impacts on both economy and foreign policy. The cost of Korean War is actually not as significant as the cost of World War II. So President Truman mostly depended on the increasing of taxation, of tax, and a decrease in some non-battle expenses. So, and instead of borrowing money from the public or from some money-making policies. So the GDP was slightly boosted by government spending financed by taxation. However, the consumption and investment did not return to the pre-war level. So on foreign policy, the short-term effects is that the conflict globalized containment, and it was the impetus for large U.S. defense budgets and extensive overseas commitment. And at the same time, the war deepened the adversarial relationship between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. So the long-term effects is that the lesson of Korea, especially the definition of victory as a permanent divided country, shaped the conduct of the Vietnam conflict.